So I still have these sick top 5 graphics from Legitimate Gamer, link in the description if you need some GFX work done for your YouTube channel or your Twitch stream or something else. But I haven't been doing any top 5 plays videos recently because they take way too long for research and editing and commentary, so I figured I could make usage of these sweet intros for a brand new top 5 commentary series, and I'll start with my top 5 most anticipated games for 2020. Now, this list may be different from your own, so let me know down below in the comments what are your top 5 most anticipated games of 2020, some of which may be available on Green Man Gaming for cheap, like the new XCOM Chimera Squad, which does come out tomorrow. That's currently 52% off, and there's tons of other games at lower prices right now during their spring sale, so click on my affiliate link down in the description to save some money on your games. Hashtag sellout schwantz. Oh, and just as an aside here, I don't usually get very hyped up about games, or I don't usually buy into the buzz that corporate suits are supposed to make you feel around new game releases, so you're going to see a good deal of skepticism as well as some praise in the commentary here about the games on my list. Anyways, let's kick off the countdown at the number 5 spot with a game that we don't really know much about, except that it will probably be launching at the end of this year when the new consoles release, and that's Halo Infinite. Other than a pair of E3 trailers, we don't really know anything about the new Halo game, but it's the first brand new Halo game to be released for PC concurrently with the follow-up to the VCR that kind of looks like one of those CD towers that you used to have if we're comparing it to old obsolete media devices. But there's two opposing sides of me that is both curious and concerned. I'm curious because it looks like a Halo game that's returning to its roots, with the spotlight on the Master Chief and the style of the trailers, especially with the rumblings of it being a reboot, which is a popular concept nowadays in FPS games like Doom and Call of Duty, although the next Call of Duty 2020 may not be a Black Ops reboot, according to Jason Schreier, but instead a Vietnam-era game, which is sort of similar, but not exactly Black Ops, and it makes sense given what we already know about how Sledgehammer Games and Raven were developing something like that prior to Treyarch getting involved with the 3-dev Monty scheme getting absolutely crushed, according to rumors and leaks. However, I'm much more concerned about the upcoming Call of Duty game because of the tumultuous development that's been reported on studio heads switching roles and the lack of design agreement than I am with Halo Infinite's development, even though 343 is actively working on the Master Chief Collection for PC. The issue that I have is that only Halo Reach and Combat Evolved are available on the PC platform in spite of the false advertising on the Steam page indicating that there are 6 games in this bundle, and while there is beta testing currently for Halo 2, it's still missing Halo 3, Halo 4, and ODST. Given the 4-month gap between releases for the PC, December for Reach and March for Combat Evolved, it would appear that we probably won't be getting all of the promised 6 games for the Master Chief Collection until after Halo Infinite is already out, which means that those classics will probably be dead on arrival on PC, because why play the older ones when you could play a brand new experience? According to a blog post on Halo Mania, the estimated release dates for the games are May for Halo 2, July for Halo 3, September for ODST, and November for Halo 4, which seems aggressive given the current schedule for releases, and it also means that we'll have maybe, like 2 weeks of Halo 4 before Halo Infinite comes out at best, with very little 411 about what Halo Infinite actually is and what 343 is currently working on. I'm very cautious and curious about their new game, which is why this entry is not higher. At the number 4 spot is another game that's coming out on Friday, April the 24th, with Trials of Mana, which, yes, is a game that actually came out way back in 1995 for the Super Famicom, aka the Japan-only version of the SNES that was added to the collection of Mana in June of last year for the Nintendo Switch. It's a sequel to my second favorite JRPG of all time, you just can't beat Chrono Trigger, which is aptly named Secret of Mana. Even though I bag on remasters, especially ones being held hostage by an exclusivity deal and retroactively adding in microtransactions where there weren't any, this game is slightly different, as other than the version on the Nintendo Switch released just last year, the only time that this game was ever available outside of Japan was through an English translated ROM played on an emulator, which is how I originally played the game. It's not the first Mana series game to get a remake, as the aforementioned Secret of Mana got one in 2018, but just take one look at the fucking trailer here and you'll see why I never even bothered getting excited about it. And this is a game that I could just play on my SNES anytime I wanted to, whereas that's not the case with Trials of Mana, and it appears to be getting the remake treatment we'd all wish for with its predecessor. Another Square Enix remake just came out with Final Fantasy VII, and it's not just a remake of the game's graphics and sound, it actually adds in content like fleshing fleshing out backstories for the secondary characters and adding new ones. But the thing that crosses the line for me is where, spoiler alert, they deviate greatly from the original story with extraneous bullshit towards the end of the campaign. And I was also slightly bothered with the removal of the turn-based battle system that was huge back in the days of JRPGs of yore that I played prior to Square moving over to the Sony platform, since I was a Nintendo guy prior to the Xbox 360, and after the disaster that is the VCR, I can't see myself owning a console anytime soon. Anyways, after watching some gameplay of how they did the action-based combat in Final Fantasy VII Remake instead of the old school turn style, because gamers these days would rather just mash buttons in ADHD fashion instead of actually strategize their attacks based on doing some actual thinking and quick maths before acting, I don't really hate it as much as I thought it was going to. But this is not going to be a problem with Trials of Mana, because it's already not a turn-based RPG, but instead a hack and slash affair by design. I'm quite disappointed that in a game that had already had co-op, even in its prequel, this remake isn't doing any online multiplayer or even local co-op. But I think that it will still have replayability, given that you choose between 3 sets of characters to go through the story with. This entry definitely would have been higher if it had online co-op to play with friends, but even though it's a remake, it's of a game that deserves to be released to a broader audience than its original 25 years ago relegated it to Japan only. Oh, and if you are interested in buying this game, it is 15% off on Green Man Gaming. Again, use my affiliate link down in the description. Taking on the bronze medal spot is a game that is made by the developers that did one of my current favorite non-FPS games, Overcooked and Overcooked 2, but it's also set to release in the next week, on the 28th to be exact, with Moving Out. It's got a similar co-op experience to the cooking versions of their game, but this time, instead of working together to make food, you're working together to make sure that people's shit, or insert George Carlin's bit here about people's stuff that they have, fits nicely inside of a delivery truck, which means that you have to be aware of where you're placing the items so you don't have to rearrange the entire fucking move later. There are items that are only movable by multiple people, so you're going to have to coordinate, and a timer-based medal system instead of points, like in the cooking game, so your goal is to do things as fast as possible without regard for how much shit you fuck up during the process. In playing the demo, in order to play with a friend, I had to use Steam's remote play feature, which isn't as good as an actual online multiplayer system, so I hope that was just a limitation for the demo and not also in the real game. Although Totally Reliable Delivery Service was made free last week on the Epic Games Store, its gameplay mechanics are different in spite of being quite a similar premise, with the difficulty being the movement mechanics for Totally Reliable Delivery Service versus in Moving Out, it's more about coordination with your team as well as avoiding obstacles like a Frogger type level and a level where you're moving a haunted mansion. And the chairs you're supposed to pack start to fucking walk on their own, so you gotta pin them down into the truck with some bigger furniture. More selling out here, as this game is 18% off using my Green Man Gaming affiliate link in the description. And at the runner-up spot is a game that I've been playing the closed alpha for, and since it's under NDA, I can't really show you footage or really go into too much detail about the game, but it's called Rogue Company, and it plays like a less tactical third-person Rainbow Six Siege with a buying system similar to CSGO prior to each round of play. Even though it sounds pretty derivative just based on the description alone, the gameplay is what matters here, and unfortunately, you can't put that on a box, as they say. Even though I'm really excited for this game to come out, I'm also very afraid it will be blown out of the water by Valorant, which is another game that everybody's hyped up about, since there are some similarities, but both games play radically different from one another, and I'm worried that we'll have another Battleborn Overwatch situation on our hands here, where this game, Rogue Company, will be dead in no time flat. I just recently got my Valorant drop, so I haven't played much of the game yet, but from watching streams and talking to others who have played both, they all have said that Valorant is CSGO with some quality of life improvements and character abilities, whereas Rogue Company is a 4v4 or 3v3 as opposed to a 5v5 third-person shooter that also has character abilities, but the economy is not universal as it is in Valorant. It's on a per-character basis, with being able to buy from only a set of weapons and perks, kind of like when choosing an operator in Rainbow Six Siege that has only a certain set of kits available. I really hope that this game can carve out its own niche instead of being swallowed up by Valorant due to their similarities instead of people focusing on their differences. And taking home the #1 spot in a surprising fashion is yet another remastered game here in my list, but it's due to drop in June with the Command & Conquer Remastered Collection. It consists of the original Command & Conquer, now called Tiberian Dawn, and Red Alert, which were my first 2 ever online multiplayer games since they were released in 95 and 96, back when the internet was first blooming, and my dad even had to install a brand new phone line since I was always taking up the dial tone on the main line when playing the sweet sounds of a 56K modem. Ever since EA shut down the online GameSpy servers back in 2014, the Command & Conquer collection that they currently sell on Origin has no online services, and even though there are fan-made versions of both games right now that you could play for free that are pretty faithful to the original, while also offering some of the functionality for today's online connectivity, seeing games from 25 years ago getting updated graphics and having the iconic soundtracks remixed and remastered is well worth the small asking price of only $20 for two legendary games in the real-time strategy genre. Not to mention, it will also be adding in modern features such as an ELO ranking system for matchmaking and more. Much like lots of its other franchises that it's acquired, EA has completely fucked the Command & Conquer series ever since it acquired it, so I really hope that they do right by this game, and based on trailers and other information that I found on Reddit, I think they're definitely starting to head in the right direction for this one. Anyways, so that's my list. It's kind of weird that there's two fucking remasters on it, but hey, I guess that's what the fucking state of gaming is now in this year. What are your top 5 most anticipated games of 2020? Let me know in the comments section down below. I've been the Schwanz27, out like Gronk in New England. Until next time.